What's up everyone, my name is Ken, welcome to my channel. This video is the second part of my Dynasty Warriors 5 Stream Legends KS tier list. As a reminder, this time we're only basing this tier list on the character's 4th weapon setup. In the future, I will explore custom 3rd weapon setups to increase the ranking of some characters who have bad 4th weapons such as Xing Kai, Xun Qian, Su Huang, Huang Zhang, and so on. In the previous videos, we looked at the top tier, high tier, and almost high tier, the cream of the crop, the elites, the top 50th percentile, but in this video, we're looking at characters that even I struggle to play with, so if you have a better way of playing them, leave a comment below. Before you watch this video, make sure to check out the first part of the tier list and the terminology video, links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. First, we have the mid-tier. These are the characters that can clear some 5-star stages, but they do have questionable defense. And from the last video, I did some further playtesting and have decided to demote Nuwa, Yue Ying, and Sha Hodun to this tier, simply because they are far too risky to play. First, we have Zhou Yu. He is basically a slower Lu Xun with a juggling Musou. He has the same C1 but slower, the same shuriken jump charge but slower, and slower running speed, resulting in an extremely slow offense. Another weakness he has is that just like Lu Xun, he can be vulnerable when landing his jump charge too close to an enemy. Next we have Zhang Wei. He is probably the worst polearm character in the game. His C6 and jump charge cancel is a decent combo for filling and freezing, while his C1 can be used to flinch an incoming crowd. And his juggling Musou is good for crowd clearing, but he has one weakness, and that is because his C6 covers so much distance and scatters enemies everywhere, he has to run around a lot to reposition himself. If a fast-running enemy officer like Ling Tong or Lu Xun decide to chase him upon landing from his jump cancel, he'll be vulnerable. Next is Cao Cao. He is strictly a worse version of Sun Jian, but with a better 4th weapon and the ability to freeze. He has a juggling Musou, and his main filler C5 has a pre-charge delay. That's why I equipped him with a wind scroll instead of on dragon arms to make more enemies flinch before his C5 for a safer execution of the move. When dueling an officer, you can use C6 to freeze them because it has multiple elemental hits. In terms of weakness, he has an unsafe Musou ending. His Musou is slightly hard to juggle with, and its hitbox is very wonky against a frozen enemy. Next we have Sun Quan. He is the last Thorn Commander type in this game, and his Wind Scroll C6 and Light Orb is a decent crowd control and filling tool, but still unreliable in big crowds. You can try and play him like Dong Zhuo, filling mainly on horseback and use his Musou against an officer, but his Musou ending isn't safe enough, and switching to True Musou isn't an option because he has Identity Flute Musou, so that would cut the damage in half. Next is Zenji. Her C6 has pre-charge delay, but also 360 coverage, so it's good for Musou filling. Just don't use it in a big crowd and make sure that when you do, you make an enemy flinch beforehand. Her Musou is decent for officer killing and great for crowd clearing, but she's also the only character in the game to have a pre-Musou delay, so make sure to make an officer flinch first before you execute it. Next is Guan Yu. His C6 is a decent filling and freezing combo, but it has a massive pre-charge delay, so it's quite unsafe in big crowds. His C4 is faster to execute, but leaves a noticeable hole in his back. Musou has good range, but it has low hit rate. Like Yue Ying, he's a very unversatile character to use. And we have Zhang He. I'll be completely honest, I was too harsh on Zhang He in his Musou mode video. Originally placing him in the low tier, his jump charge is good for scattering a crowd and filling Musou, but if they block it, he can be vulnerable when landing. His C3 is good for damaging and freezing an officer in a duel. He has a non-juggling Musou, but his hitbox and hit rate is one of the worst in the game, so it does very low damage, and he also has a case of Identity Flute Musou, so his true Musou juggles. Guan Ping C4 and jump cancel is his bread and butter. It's good for filling, freezing, and navigating a big crowd, but just like Jiang Wei's C6, this move scatters enemies everywhere, so it's terrible for a crowd control, meaning he has to run around a lot and is vulnerable against fast-running officers like Lu Xun, Gan Ning, and Ling Tong, if they decide to chase him. Also, just like Gan Ning, his Musou hitbox is very low, so it can't knock an enemy officer off the horse. Cao Pi has a unique moveset that allows him to release a C1 Ice Ball after every other charge attack except C3 by pressing square immediately after triangle. Unfortunately, this isn't very useful on Chaos. Personally, I just release a C1 as a crowd is approaching and then fill Musou with C5. In terms of weakness, every single one of his charge attack has a pre-charge delay and his Musou juggles and does pretty low damage. Cao Pi is overall just a mediocre character, not super safe to play and doesn't have super fast offense either, but he's not terrible. Next is Pang Tong. His C1 and jump charge cancel to get away is his only way to deal with a crowd. His C1 is very unique in the sense that it's the only energy ball C1 to also fill Musou in the entire game. Also, his Musou hitbox is great and very useful for crowd killing. In terms of weakness, the second and third hit of his square string is terrible. He has extremely slow offense and he is a subpar duelist. Next is Sun Xiangxiang. Her light orb C6 and jump cancel can be used for filling and is only unsafe before the execution. After the jump cancel, Sun Xiangxiang is a very fast runner, so it's easy for her to reposition herself. Also, her heavy weapons make her attacks unflinching. In terms of weakness, her heavy weapon and pre-charge delay means she can't enter a big crowd at will and is very prone to being swarmed. Musou hitbox is wonky and quite hard to juggle with. Now, just like Zhang He, I also originally put Huang Shang down as low tier, which was very unfair of me, because he does have some usable tool to carry him in Chaos. So first, he has a range C1 to fill Musou from a distance, and a jump charge to get away. This is generally a good combo. For close range, he can use C6 and jump cancel to fill or freeze his enemies. And a good alternative to his C1 would be his C3 when the crowd is too big to use his C6 but is still far away enough to use his range bow attack. In terms of weakness, he has a terrible fourth weapon. It is as bad as Sun Jian, and he has an extremely slow offense because there's a lot of running around, repositioning, and his bow damage, even though it fills Musou well, it just doesn't do that much damage. And also, his normal Musou ending is quite unsafe, so I always have to use Way of Musou with Huang Shang. And finally, in this tier, we have Xiao Kao. Her Light Orb C4 and Jump Charge are both great tools for Musou filling, or better yet, Light Orb C4 and Jump Charge cancel. If you want to maximize Musou damage over filling safety, use Ice Orb instead, since her Musou does juggle. But her biggest weakness is the fact that she has the worst Musou hitbox in the entire game. It is worse than Gan Ning, Zhang He, Su Chu, and Fu Xi. So that says something. Finally, we have the low tier. These are the worst characters in the game who can't clear a 5-star Chaos stage without a fan bodyguard. First, we have Tai Shi Chi. His jump charge is the best Musou filler he has, but he's extremely vulnerable afterwards, so there's a 90% chance he'll have to waste his Musou to defend himself. And also, his Musou is terrible at crowd killing. Instead, it is a very officer-oriented. But the issue with Tai Shi Chi is that because he has such limited filling options, he doesn't have the tool to isolate an officer from a crowd to hit him with the Musou's full force. All in all, Tai Shi Chi is just a very high-risk but low-reward character to play, and he also has a case of Identity Flute Musou. With a custom third weapon, his rank may rise to the top of mid-tier, but for now, he definitely belongs here. We have Dian Wei. I initially wanted to play him the same way that I played Sun Jian, c5 and jump cancel, run away and then c5 and jump cancel again, since c5 is the only charge attack he has that's not crippled by pre-charge delay. But the issue is that his square string is still noticeably slow, even with a lightweight fort weapon, and his terrible running speed can't accommodate this playstyle. All in all, it's just very hard to play Dian Wei safely. Next is Sun Ce. His c4 and jump cancel works well with his good running speed, but the 3 squares before it is wildly unsafe because of their terrible range. In fact, Sun Ce's bad range caused the majority of his moveset to be very unsafe, including his mounted combat. On top of that, he also has one of the wonkiest juggling Musou hitbox, making it hard to maximize his Musou damage. For Zhang Jiao, I mainly use his c3 to fill Musou, but leading up to it, the second square is unsafe, just like Pang Tong, and the first 2 hits of his c3 is also unsafe. Additionally, he has the worst Musou and true Musou ending in the entire game, with such a long delay that not even Rage Mode can save him if he finishes his Musou inside of a crowd. Xia Haoyuan is basically Huang Zhang if you took away all the tools that make his range-filling playstyle work. He has no jump charge escape move, no functional close-range charge attack like Huang Zhang C6, and absolutely terrible running speed. Xu Chu is basically Fuxi if Fuxi didn't have his only functional Musou filling tool, which is his infinite jump charge cancel loop. What he does have though is the exact same weakness as Fuxi. He has a slow square string, slow charge attacks, slow Musou hit rate, terrible Musou hitbox, and terrible Musou ending. On top of that, his running speed is one of the slowest in the entire game. And after Xu Chu are 2 characters that, to me personally, only have drawbacks with no advantage in the game. First we have Diao Chan. She has the worst heavy fort weapon in the game. She doesn't have a single usable charge attack, not even her C6, because they're all too slow. Even her square string is so slow, it will be disrupted by an officer in a one-on-one duel. Her Musou hit rate is also slow, with a super wonky hitbox and a garbage ending. Her jump charge would have been good for Musou filling just like Tai Shi Ji if her fort weapon didn't give her a disgustingly long Musou bar. The only saving grace this character has is a good true Musou ending, so I can only play her by getting in red health, run around and spam her true Musou. That's it. And in my opinion, the worst character in the entire game is Huang Gai. Just like Pang Tong, Zhang Jiao, and Nuwa, Huang Gai has a case of broken square string, with his 3rd and 4th square being massively unsafe. His range jump charge is decent, but doesn't fill Musou, and he has no usable charge attack on the ground. His juggling Musou is pretty unremarkable, and that's the biggest issue with Huang Gai. He just doesn't have any tool to work with. However, there's a very interesting strategy that a viewer told me about regarding Huang Gai's strange affinity with the survival guide. Out of everyone in the game, he's the only person who can decrease his own health and knock himself down with C1. If you do this during red health, the survival guide gives you double attack damage, so just run around and spam his true Musou. Be careful not to catch a stray arrow though, because when you play him like this, he is extremely vulnerable to any form of damage whatsoever. And with that, we have completed the tier list. I hope you're happy with your favorite character's ranking. If you did not, please let me know why in the comment section below. I would love to have a discussion with you about how to better optimize each character's chaos gameplay. Moving forward, I am first going to complete my Ling Tong stream mode playlist. I know some of you are quite interested and invested in that playthrough. And I'm also curious to find out if it's possible to crack 1000 before my PS2 breakdown. After that, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I'll update this tier list with some characters' custom third weapon optimization. They'll essentially trade the 1 rage token per 100 kills bonus for a weapon with better stats than their fourth weapon. But before the tier list update, I'll make a new playlist where I'll play every character on the same 5-star chaos stage to truly measure their performance and compare them to each other. It should be fun. I'll see you later. Peace.